All right, we are live. Thank you everybody for jumping on today. We are excited to have you on session number 3 of the SEO Masterclass for window treatment companies. Very excited to have you here today. Thank you for jumping on. We've got a good crew here again today, and we are going to be talking all about off-page factors, things that you can do on other people's websites that will affect your website and your rankings. So that sounds like fun. I don't know how in the world you can do things on other people's websites to affect yours, but we're going to figure that out today. So today we're going to talk about Google My Business, now known as Google Business Profile, GBP. Although in my world, it's been called Google My Business for so long that we just still refer to it as that. So you'll hear it called GMB, Google My Business, although in reality, it's now called GBP. It's just harder to say. But that's what it is, Google Business Profile. We'll also talk about citations, one of the coolest, best things you can do for your business. So we'll talk about them. We'll talk about some local SEO stuff that you can do, talk about reviews, and the 5 biggest changes that have happened in SEO recently. And actually, I'm going to throw in a bonus one too, I think, there. You guys know about me, Will Hankey, Window Treatment Marketing Pros. We are the experts when it comes to doing everything digital marketing for your window treatment and awning business. If you do have questions, please toss those into the chat. I'm happy to answer those. Want to make sure that you guys are getting your questions answered. Make sure that you're understanding everything that I'm explaining to you. And if not, I want to explain it better. So go ahead and put those into the chat. I've explained this before, that this is part of our digital dominance method. And again, we are going to be focusing specifically on number 4, organic SEO, things that we can do to really help you with your rankings. And that's obviously what this entire 6-week course is mostly about. We'll be hovering around that one for a lot of the pieces of this. So if you don't have the workbook, go ahead and get that bit.ly/WTMP SEO Masterclass worksheet. That is the place to grab that. Make sure that you get that. That has all 6 sessions in there, along with any homework, all the resources, all the links, everything is in there as well. So you can grab that and always have access to that in there. We are updating that. So there are updates in there that you can grab each time. So each time that I do mention this, you might want to go make sure that there's not some new updates in there. And as we finish this up, we'll be going back and visiting that and updating it as well. So make sure you get the latest one at the end for sure. So, all right. Before we get started on this week's session, I want to just make sure. Last week we talked about on-page factors. We talked about titles. We talked about descriptions. We talked about heading tags, some of the nerdy behind the scenes stuff that you could do. We talked about copy. We talked about a little bit about web design and the prettiness of your site. Were there any questions that you guys had after you went back, did some of the homework? I know I got some different emails and people that reached out saying that you've already started doing some stuff. Is there anything that you guys ran into that you had questions about? Put those into the chat, and I want to make sure that everybody got those questions answered before we went any further. I'll give you a minute. I'm going to grab a drink. Let's see who we got here. Leah, I know you were doing some work on yours. Travis was too. Jason, I think you were working on yours. Hopefully you guys got that screaming frog and kind of pulled in the list of everything that you did. Leah says, does putting an H1 tag lower down the page cause any problems? Ultimately not. Typically you want it, closer to the top. if you think of like a newspaper, like they have the biggest article at the top with the biggest font, the biggest headline, and it kind of goes down the page. That's kind of the layout. But if your layout just happens to work in a way where the H1 is a little bit further down, it's not the end of the world. Google will still see that that is the H1 tag. And if it's the only one, it'll still work. Google does look at content before the fold. So what they mean, if you're still thinking of a newspaper, right? You know how newspapers are folded in half, and that content that's there before the fold is the most important content, the most important news of the day, right? That is the most important stuff. In the world of websites, that would be before somebody had to scroll, right? That is what they consider, above the fold. So Google does look at content that is on your page before somebody has to scroll. So that does count towards overall ranking. I mean, it's one of 300 things, but it does count. So you don't want to have a website that just has a giant picture and maybe your navigation at the top and then nothing, and then content is all below that. So you're not going to get any credit for content above the fold because there isn't any. So keep that in mind, that you do want to make sure that you're using that real estate to the best of your ability. We do live in a world that is highly visual. People love to look at pictures of what their home could look like. So we like to highlight these beautiful pictures. So we got to play the game of balance there with that. But just make sure that if you're showing some sort of beautiful home, that it's in the background or it just takes a little bit of room on your homepage, and that there's enough copy there to make sure that Google has something to digest, I guess would be the way to put that. And your H1 tag should probably be part of that. So I would definitely make sure it was above the fold. And that's a little tough to say because different resolutions, different screen sizes, all of that comes into play. But for the most part, if it's before somebody scrolls, that would be good. So hopefully that kind of sort of answers your question. Keep it as far north as possible, I think would be good. All right. I don't see any other questions. If you guys have any others, please put those in the chat. I want to make sure I get you guys on the right path here. So, all right. So let's talk about off-page factors. In particular, we're going to dive into a couple different things today. We're going to talk about your Google business profile. We're going to talk about citations. Make sure that you get a lot of those. Online reviews is a big piece of the equation. Some tools that you can use to help with that. And then building links from other websites back to yours is another big piece of this. So let's dive in and talk about Google My Business or Google Business Profile. So first thing you need to do is claim your business profile if you haven't done this already. Google.com/business is where you would go to start that. Make sure that you claim your business. Get your business name into the system. Make sure that you've optimized that, filled out as much as you can, obviously. And then, get everything that you can filled out. That's the first step. Make sure that your business is in there. Now, it could be that your business is already in there. Google does find business licenses, business things that have been approved or that have been submitted. They load it in as a business that has not been claimed, and then you just have to claim that business. So in that case, your business may already be there and you just have to claim it as yours. But either way, make sure that you've done so that you're tied to that particular business name. Now, the biggest secret to getting ranked at the top of Google, well, there's actually three things. There's three main pieces to getting linked or getting ranked in the top of what we call the Google 3-pack. That's the three listings with the map. We call it the 3-pack, or we also call it the snack pack. But that is citations, which we'll cover in a minute, reviews, a number of reviews that you have, and how well your site is SEO'd. So we're going through that in this entire session, in this entire 6-week session. So these are the other two pieces of that. Now, we've also kind of seen this before, that 71% of the clicks go to these top two areas. And from our experience, we've had over 100 clients at this point going through our system. And right now we're seeing somewhere between 60 and 70% of our client leads come from this 3-pack of results, the Google My Business results. So if they're listed in that Google 3-pack, that's where most of their leads are coming from, even more than the organic rankings below that. It is a huge driver of leads for your business. Now, only if you're in there, it's a huge driver of leads, right? But getting in there is really, really the big piece of that. So we have to get you into that system. So what are some things that you can do to make sure that you're showing up more often than not in there? Well, obviously claim and verify your Google listing. Now, when it comes to verifying your listing, this used to be real easy. You claim your listing and they send you a postcard to that address with a PIN number. You plug in the PIN number a couple of days later and you're verified. Not so much the case anymore. Now they're starting to get to the point where they want you to make a video of the parking lot and maybe of your van, and then of you walking in the front door and your signage on the door, and then your workroom and your office, and just all these things, as much as you can, obviously. But they're starting to ask for that, or they're starting to ask for pictures. They're starting to ask for a copy of your business license. They're starting to ask for a lot more things to verify that it really is your business. So it's not as easy as it used to be, but it's not impossible. But getting the verification piece is definitely getting more difficult. Obviously, if you own the business, it shouldn't be 100% impossible to verify it, but it does take some steps to get through it nowadays. No spam in the company name. So this one's tricky. A lot of companies will go out there and they'll put, who is it? Leah, I think, on the call has Relish Window Coverings. I think that's the right name. Let's pretend like that's the name. I don't know if that's exactly right, but if Leah was to go out and claim her listing and her company, she put her company name as Relish Window Coverings, Shutters, Shades, Blinds, and Reupholstery, right? That's not the business name, but she wanted to get all those keywords in there. Google would kick her out, or somebody else, one of her competitors, could flag her account for not using her actual business name. So you have to use your real business name, not a bunch of extra keywords, even though it sounds like a great idea. And it works. If you add those extra keywords, you'll probably rank fairly well for some other searches until you get kicked out. So not a great idea in the long run to do that. Definitely don't put any spam or any extra keywords. Use your real business name in there. All right, next, lots of online reviews. Obviously, this one only comes with time, but it does come with having a process in place to make sure that you're getting those reviews as you're going through doing installs, that you're making sure that you're asking for those reviews. That's the only way that's going to grow, is if you have some sort of process to make it grow, right? Keyword in the title tag or some variation, that's going to help. Now, this is related to the title tag in the organic rankings below. So if you look at this example, we've got Prescott Window Coverings in the top spot there. That's one of our clients. They've got 51 reviews. Then we've got Made in the Shade Yavapai with 24 reviews. And then we've got Blind Brothers Arizona with 162 reviews. Then we've got the organic rankings of Prescott in the #1 spot, Budget Blinds in the #2 spot organically, and Blind Brothers of Arizona in the #3 spot. So the reason Prescott is in the #1 spot is because they have all three pieces of the recipe. They've got high reviews, 51. They don't have the most reviews. You see that Blind Brothers is knocking them out 3-1, but they've got a high number of reviews. They've optimized their website for SEO, right? Because you can see they're in the #1 organic spot there. So they've got that working for them. They've got a great review number, 4.6, and you can see that Made in the Shade below them is a 5.0, but they've got less reviews. So all of the pieces are working together for them to get to the top there. They've got keywords in their title tag on their website so that they rank. And then the third piece, which you can't see, and we'll talk more about in a minute, is number of citations or links back from other websites to their website with a consistent reference of NAP, name, address, phone. And we'll talk more about this in a couple minutes, but that's the big piece there. And then a solid link profile across the web. So lots of links pointing back to their website. So when you're in the Google My Business backend, make sure that you update as much as you can. So obviously fill in your business name, your hours, anything that you can. If you have parking, if you're veteran owned or woman owned, all of these different things are stuff that you can fill in. You just go to the info tab on the left, or nowadays you can actually just type in your business name and it'll come up and let you edit it right inside of Google now. But you can edit all of these different things in here and make sure that you're filling out as much as you can, hours, any dates that you're closed, like holidays, those sorts of things. Make sure you're filling all of this stuff out. That will help you get it approved. It'll also make it more optimized, right? Which is obviously a big piece of that. So the other piece that's missing here that I've mentioned, but haven't gone into detail on, is citations. Citations are mentions of your business around the web on other websites that mention your business. So they could include a link, but they don't necessarily have to include a link, which is a little bit strange. Now, you're probably familiar with a lot of these sites. You just didn't realize it. Obviously, Facebook is a big one, right? You have a Facebook page that mentions your business, your address, your phone number, all that kind of stuff is on your Facebook page. Bing has a same thing like Google My Business. Bing has one called Bing Places. Apple Maps has a system that you can do it. There's Yahoo Local. There's Foursquare. And then there's others like Yellow Pages, Better Business Bureau, Yelp. So there are all of these different places or websites or business directories online where you can submit your business to, and once approved, Google will count them as a citation or a mention of your business, which will improve your Google business profile. There are a lot of these. Some of these still exist. Some of them don't. Most of them probably do still, but a lot of these will look familiar to you. And there are right now, we submit to around, I think, 225 of these sites, I think. So we don't do all these at once. I mean, it takes a while to submit these. But the idea is just consistently be posting to these different sites as time goes on. Now, in our world, you might want to consider sites like Houzz and Yelp, obviously, City Search, maybe some manufacturers. There's also the WCAA or Hunter Douglas, right? These types of sites that list your business. You want to make sure that you're getting your business listed on there. And when it comes to what you should be listing, there are three things: name, address, phone number. Those three things always need to be the same. They always have to be the same across every single one of these. So that's the big piece of this. It's a long manual process, but there are some tools that can help. These are probably the big four in this world, Whitespark, which is whitespark.ca. It's a Canadian company. Moz Local, Bright Local, and Yext. For us personally, we use Bright Local for our clients. We like them the best, but all of these work great. So the way these services work is you plug in your website, your information, and then these services go out and find all the citation sites. And then they say, okay, here are all the ones that are incorrect, or maybe the phone number is wrong, or maybe just the address is wrong. We can fix this for you. And then you plug in your credit card and they go to work for you. Or obviously you could just do it manually yourself, one at a time. But that is the process. Like I said, we use Bright Local. We do the service that they offer to do that, just because it's the manual way of doing it would take forever. So the trick here, again, name, address, phone number. Out of those, the address is probably the most specific one. If you are if you're at 123 Main Street, then you need to use 123 Main ST period all the time, or spell out the word street all the time. It doesn't matter which way you do it. It's just that whatever way you choose, you always do it the same way every time. So whatever way you choose, stick with it. Phone number obviously should always be the same across every network. And name, you should always use your full name. If you have a comma LLC at the end, make sure you're using that the same as well. Those sorts of things. Just make sure you're always doing it the same. Name, address, phone. All right, let me see if there's any questions. Let's see. No. All right. All right, reviews. So another big piece of this is reviews, and I've kind of mentioned that reviews are something else that are going to drive ultimately where you are listed in the Google 3-pack. And reviews also influence potential customers into the top of your funnel. So the process of getting a review is an end of sale, end of customer journey thing. That's when it happens. But when it happens, it actually is influencing another customer to join the top of your funnel. So very important to keep it going, because it's feeding the top end, right? Now, I showed you this earlier, that these, well, the first two companies have more reviews than the third company. So it's not just getting reviews that is going to get you to the top of this. It's having an optimized profile and having an optimized website as well. All of these things work together. Having citations is a big piece of that as well. So all of these things work together. Now, one thing you can do to kind of push this along is obviously get a list of installs that you've done recently. Reach out to those people, you know, that you've done recently, and just ask them for a review. Now, our clients use a system called LeadBoomerang, and they can just plug that in here, click on send review request, and we've got an automated system that automatically sends the customer review request. Hey, would you mind leaving us a review? And it does that once every 4 days, I think, for 3 requests. After that, they're probably not going to leave you a review. Most of them do on the first one. But having some sort of system in there can do that. Now, the other thing you can do, I'm going to back up to this one again. The other thing you could do is you could go into your list, and let's say there are 500 installs that you've done over the last 2 years that they're older, right? If you sent somebody a year and a half ago, hey, would you leave us a review? You know, that might not go over too well. They're like, you installed this a year and a half ago. So you could still do it, but you're going to have to just be a little bit more customized about how you email them, right? You could definitely still reach out to them and say, hey, we're a small business. We're trying to grow our reviews. We know that we did an install for you a year and a half ago. Would you mind leaving us a review? You would just have to preface it a little bit to make sure that they understood that. But definitely you could reach out to people from a while back and do the same thing, plug them into a system and do so. Now there's a couple systems that do this. Podium is probably one of the more well-known ones, especially since they've tied themselves with Hunter Douglas. There's also Bird Eye, Gather Up, and then LeadBoomerang is the one that we use for all of our clients. That's our system. And then, whatever you decide to use, reach out to those customers. Thanks for using our company. A little bit about your business. We really strive to make our clients happy. Would love it if you wouldn't mind leaving us a review. Now, one thing that happened with this is when we were sending this out, it would mean a lot if you would leave us a review. What happened was we started getting a lot of 4-star reviews, and we're doing a great job. The installs were great. The clients were happy. So we kind of reworded this a little bit, and we came up with something a little bit shorter. And it said, if I'd like you to share your experience. If you thought we did a 5-star job, leave us a review. If you feel we fell short, give me a call, that kind of stuff. And I think just changing those words around, well, I know it worked, changing those words around, that if you believe we did a 5-star performance, click the link. If you feel we fell short of that, call me personally. And when we did this, all of our 4-star reviews went away. It went all to 5. So be careful about how you ask for reviews. This is very important, that I guess in a way you're prompting them to leave a 5-star review, but this worked phenomenally. So definitely consider the way that you ask for the reviews too, as part of how you reach out to your customers. So definitely consider that along the way. All right. Any questions about reviews? All right. All right. Let's jump into the 5 biggest changes in SEO over the last couple years. And I'm going to throw in the bonus one too. So, all right, 5 biggest changes. You can no longer get away with duplicate content. We'll talk about what that means. Low quality links can hurt you. You need a real physical office to rank well. So that one we're definitely going to have to talk about. Your site can't be slow, and your site must be mobile friendly. These are important things that are really going to help you when it comes to SEO of your website. So duplicate content. Now, most of the window treatment and awning companies, you serve a small area in the overall scheme of the globe, right? A lot of people used to create this one piece of copy, and or web designers, web developers would do this. They'd create a page of copy, and then they would go in and they would just do a copy and paste and change the name of the city, and they would generate 50 cities, right? All 50 cities that were within your 50-mile radius, right? And just like that, you had 50 city pages on your site. Google got smart to that, right? They know that was one variation of what they call duplicate content. That doesn't work anymore. And it could only hurt you nowadays by doing something like that. Your pages need to be unique from one page to the next. So city pages, in my example, city pages are fantastic pages to have on your site, but they need to be unique. So you need to mention local landmarks, obviously, the city name, anything known about that city, use local pictures, things like that for each different municipality that you're using or coming across talking about on your website. You also obviously can't copy blogs from other sites to your site, things like that. Anything related to content that somebody else has done, you can't put on your site. Now, another example of this is Hunter Douglas is known for this, where they give their dealers these template websites. And every one of them gets a blog a month or 2 blogs a month, or I don't know how many, but they all get the same blog. And that is duplicate content. So what happens is the corporate site that publishes the blog will get the credit for that being original content. And then all X thousand of sites that they duplicate that to are actually being penalized for having duplicate content on their site. So they're actually doing their dealers a disservice by putting that content on all of those sites. And there are other franchises that do similar things like that they're providing a marketing service to their franchisees or their clients or members, whatever you want to call it, by offering them this content, and it's actually hurting them. So be careful of those kinds of things too. Content that goes on your site needs to be 100% unique, not created or posted anywhere else. All right, question from YouTube. What should I do, for example, if I get a 2-star review because of my installer? Should I just take it and learn? Do I remove it? Okay, fantastic question. So 2 stars better than 1 star. That's good. But at the end of the day, you should do a couple things. You should reply to the review and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, that it happened. Here are the steps that we took to remediate it or whatever it is, right? I would definitely do that first of all. If the review is inaccurate, I would politically correctly correct those things without coming across as oh yeah, you don't want to do that, but you do want to say, this is the way that I understand it. If the review is abusive or derogatory or anything like that, then you could just flag it as inappropriate and have it taken down, right? If it's a legit review and it was just a screw up, then I would own it. I would reply to it. I would own it. I'm sorry. We would like to make it, we would like to make it right, or we tried to make it right, something like that. And I would just leave it there. You don't want to try to take something down that really is true and is part of it. And then I would work on getting more 5-star reviews to push that number, where in the overall scheme of things, it doesn't really affect it that much. Google doesn't hate 1 and 2-star reviews. In fact, it makes you look a little bit more legit because we're all going to come across those customers. So that's not the end of the world. It's only the end of the world if you only have 3 reviews and 2 of them are 1-star reviews, and your average is at a 1.3 or something like that. So, the best way to fix it is to get a lot more 5-star reviews. But definitely reply to that review. When it comes to replying to reviews, the way that I tell people to do it is write the reply and then just leave it on your screen, typically until the next day, and then come back, revisit it, rewrite it, redo it a little bit before you post it. Because typically what we do is we write it in anger the first time. And then as we come back the second time, we're a little bit cooler headed, before we go to post it. So hopefully that helps you get it a little bit better. The other thing you can do is you can use ChatGPT. I have seen people use ChatGPT. I saw an example. They had an installer that had backed into a car, and the person that got hit went and left a 1-star review. And the owner went to ChatGPT and basically just typed in, my installer backed into a guy's car. He left us a bad review. Help me write something back as a reply to this person. And what it wrote back was phenomenal. It was great. So you can use those kinds of tools to help write some sort of a reply back to the person that is a little bit more center line and not so much your passion, I guess, would be a good way to say it. So, all right. Cool. So let's press on here. All right. Number 2 is too many irrelevant or low quality links pointing back to your site. So this comes from years and years ago when there were a lot of tools out there where you could plug in your website and it would just go crazy and build links all across the web, almost like the citations I was mentioning earlier, but like on a massive scale. And you would get links across thousands of websites in a matter of minutes. So that used to be the case. And Google used to say, you know, he with the most links wins. And it was a great way to get high rankings in Google. Well, they addressed that in what they called the Penguin update. Now, the quality of the link is as important as the link itself. So a link from some fee to your website is worth more than a link from Motors or Us. I don't know. I'm making it up, right? Motorsorus.com or something like that. So the quality of the site that is sending the link to you matters as well, and the relevancy of it as well too. So a link from Motors or Us is more valuable than paintingsupplies.com, right? Which has no relevance to what we do. So something like that would be important as well. So the value of the links is as important. So it's better to get high quality links versus a huge quantity of them. All right, number 3, this one's going to suck for some people, but you really do need a real physical office in order to rank well on Google Maps. In Google My Business, you can list what they call a service area, and you can draw your little trapezoid around a specific area that you want to do business in, and that works, and you will be listed in the system. However, the chances of you getting leads from GMB are like 10 times less than if you list a real address in Google My Business. It is drastically different. We had a client in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is one of the fastest growing areas in the country. She had her home address listed and was getting leads. And then she said, you know what? I don't want to list my home address anymore. Just change it to a service area. And we changed it to a service area, and her leads just dried up. I mean, it just basically went to zero. And it wasn't 2 or 3 weeks later, she said, please put it back. It was that drastically different. So having a real physical address is very, very important, even if it's your home address. I've listed my home address for, I think, 13 years now, and I've had one person show up. Now in the window treatment world, that's a little different, right? Because you're offering a service, people might show up. So if you're in that kind of a boat, it may be better to find some sort of a location, you know, closer to the center of town. This is where it gets a little tricky. You can't get a PO box. They know that. You can't get a UPS store box anymore. They know those. You can rent like an office from somebody who maybe has a warehouse or something downtown, right? Maybe you know somebody that has a warehouse or something like that. You could rent an office, or you could rent a closet, you know, whatever, and call it Suite B or something. You could do that. You have to be able to get the postcard with the PIN number on it. However, as I mentioned earlier, Google is now starting to ask for video and some other things to, you know, some documentation to prove that this really is your location where you're doing business. So even some of those things are starting to not be enough. So it's getting harder and harder, especially for work at home people that don't want to list their home address. You can put on your website, obviously, by appointment only, you know, or we come to you, that kind of stuff. It won't stop somebody from trying to come to your house. However, I think that number is pretty small. But definitely something that is that needs to be part of the conversation. You need to consider it, highly consider it, that when you're using a service area, it is definitely going to hurt the number of leads that you're getting for your business. And definitely the closer to the center of town, the better, obviously. All right. Number 4 is all about site speed. So basically, the easy way to say this is the faster your page loads, the more Google's going to like it. So Google does have a tool called Page Speed Insights. You can just go to Google and type this in, Page Speed Insights, and they'll give you something that looks similar to this. This is one of our clients. When we plugged them in, they scored a 48 on mobile, which is pretty bad. So plug them in, plug your site in there. It'll give you a mobile. And then as you see on the top there, it actually gives you a desktop. So there's 2 tabs. There's a mobile speed and a desktop speed, and it'll tell you what those numbers are on both. And then it will also give you tips on how to fix it. So here are the things that you can do to fix your website so that it loads faster. And then you can go back after you fix those things and, resubmit it, and then it will give you a better number, hopefully a better number. In this case, it gave us a 98. We're pretty happy with that. So definitely worth using. And this is Google's tool. So if you can make Google's tool happy, then you know that that's going to help with your overall ranking as well. There is another tool called GTmetrix, and we do use this from time to time in our system. GTmetrix.com. You can use this one for free. They have like a queue of only so many people can test their site at a time. So a lot of times when you plug it in, you have to wait in line for yours to come up before you can test it. If you sign up for a free account, I think that gets you to the beginning of the line faster. It's still free. But just, if you set up an account, that'll get you there a little bit faster. So, all right. Another question from YouTube. I know somebody who bought a franchise and basically ended up having 2 Google business profiles. Is that okay? Will it cause problems? Okay. Great question. So, if they have 2 Google business profiles, if they can claim them both and get access to both of them, then they can submit to Google to get them both merged. They have to own them both. So if they have access to both and own them both, they can get them merged into one, and that's the best case scenario. So if both of them have their own individual reviews, you don't want to lose those reviews, so you can merge them together. If one has 20 reviews and the other one has 0 reviews, then you could just go mark the one with 0 reviews as no longer in business, and you're not losing anything by doing that, assuming the one with 20 reviews you have access to, right? You have to have access to that one. The best case scenario is to merge them together, but you have to have access to them both. But you don't want them both floating around out there, because at some point somebody is probably a competitor is going to go in and mark them as duplicate, and then Google will take them offline. And if you're getting leads from them, then that lead source is going to dry up. So it's better that you go ahead and fix it before that happens, and make sure that you can get access to those as soon as possible. All right. Leah says, an issue with Squarespace on speed tests. They say there are numerous JavaScript and other issues, but Squarespace says it's not an issue. Any insight? So not a lot of insight, because I don't know a lot about Squarespace. This is one of the reasons why we build websites on WordPress, because we have access to the back end and to the server level for these kinds of issues. Squarespace doesn't give you this type of access, so you're kind of sort of screwed for some of these things, and they're probably not going to be very helpful. They're giving you these website builders and they probably don't want to spend the resources to fix these things. Totally my guess. But I know that those are back end issues that they're probably not going to fix because it's going to require code updates and things like that. Yeah, that's probably my best answer there. Sorry, I know that's probably not the right one that you want to hear, but that's probably what's going on. All right. Number 5 is all around mobile friendliness. So it's probably been 4 or 5 years now where Google actually split into 2 different Googles. So there is Google Desktop and there is Google Mobile. So if you noticed on the speed test, there are 2 separate tabs there. The same is true when it comes to the index of Google. If you look up window treatments in your town on mobile, you'll get 10 results. If you do that same thing at a desktop with your mobile in your hand, but you do it on a desktop, you're probably going to get 10 different results or very similar results, but in a different order. And that comes down to, is your website mobile friendly? Now, mobile friendly means responsive. It means when you're looking at a website, it automatically changes when you change the orientation of your screen. It changes to match the size of the screen, those sorts of things. It responds to the size of the screen. So those things are very important. But mobile friendly is a big thing. If your page is not mobile friendly, then you will not show up in the Google mobile version of the index. And 60 to 70% of all searches are done on mobile devices. So you're basically shooting yourself in the foot for 6 out of 10 searches. So it's definitely important to make sure that your site is mobile friendly. Now there's a mobile friendly test. You can just go to Google and type in mobile friendly test. They have a free tool to do this. And this is the picture of that tool. You just plug in your domain name and they'll say either your page is mobile friendly or it isn't. Pretty simple. All right. The helpful content update. So this update actually came out about a year ago. And I mentioned this earlier. Google came out and said that if the content on your site isn't helpful or it's thin, meaning it's 200 words or something on one of your blogs or something, it's not helpful. It doesn't have enough meat on the bone for them to consider it. And they're just going to ignore that particular page on your website. So this all started about a year ago. And as of this month, March 2024, they've actually rolled that into their full core update now. So I think, can you guys see this article from Search Engine Land? So this came out last week. Massive search quality enhancements and a core update. The biggest thing here was this helpful content update. So if your content on your site is not helpful, or it's written by an AI thing just to have the content there, it doesn't help answer questions or solve problems, Google's probably going to either ignore the page or possibly pull it out of the index altogether. So very, very important that your content is up to date, that it is helpful, and that it answers, solves a question, helps the reader with whatever the issue that they're looking up is. So can you guys see that? The Search Engine Land article? I don't know if I'm sharing my screen correctly or not. Hopefully you guys can see that. I think you can actually. Okay, Leah says yes. Awesome, cool. All right, so that is an article. Actually, I'm going to copy this and I'll put it in the chat real quick for you, just in case you want to nerd out on it later. So, all right, cool. Let me get back over to this. All right, there we go. All right, what else has changed? Old-fashioned SEO don't think you guys are probably doing this anymore, but a lot of that, people used to put white keywords on a white background, thinking that would work. That doesn't really matter anymore. In this world, it's all about how the user is using your website and making sure that they're able to understand the site. They're able to navigate through it easily, and it's heavily focused on the user, really, at the end of the day. So, all right, any questions about anything that we covered today? Thank you guys for all the questions that you posted along the way. I do appreciate that. Any other questions about anything? I think, let's see here. This is related to on-page SEO, on-site SEO, but should links on our own website, one page to another page on our site, open in another window or in the same window? And does this affect bounce rates? Okay. Internal pages from one page to another on your website should just all open in the same window. There's no reason for that. If you're sending somebody to another website, typically those would probably open in a new window. The idea being, after they visit that new website, when they close that tab, they come back to your site, right? So your site is still there. So you delivered whatever it was that they were looking for, then they came back and then they can continue the journey on your website. So there's no reason to open them in a new window if it's just another page on your site. And then bounce rate is only for people that came to your website, looked around, and they don't tell us the number, but we think it's somewhere less than 6 seconds or so. Looked around and then hit the back button in that time frame. So bounce rate is more related to content above the fold, right? So they didn't see what they thought they were going to see when they clicked on the ranking in Google. When they saw the result, they came to your website, they didn't see what they thought they were going to see, and they hit the back button. That's more of a bounce. So bouncing is more along those lines, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's a good question. All right. Any other questions here? Liz, are there any questions on LinkedIn or YouTube? I want to make sure we don't miss any of those either. Nothing there. Okay, awesome. All right, well, this is, again, number 4, organic SEO for digital dominance method. We're probably going to spend more time on this next week. This is where we're spending a lot of time. Now, I do want to let you guys know, we are working on some coaching options. For those of you that just want a little bit more, and maybe you've done some of the homework and need some more one-on-one help. Am I doing this right? Am I on the right path here? You're not to the point where you can hire us to do all this for you. We're gonna roll some stuff out next week around some coaching options that might help you guys get a little bit further down the line. So watch for those. In the meantime, next week is number 5, things that might be hurting your rankings. So this is always a fun one. All these crazy things that people come up with and come to us and say, what do you think if we do this? Right? What do you think if we do this? No, don't do that. Google's on to you. They know what you're up to. So we'll be talking all about the things that might be hurting your rankings, some things that maybe you've done in the past and forgotten about, or somebody else has done in the past that you need to go fix, those sorts of things. We'll be talking about those. In the meantime, if you do have any questions, don't forget to jump into our private Facebook group, post those questions in there. We'll make sure to get all your answers posted in there for everybody to see. We want to make this a sharing experience for everyone. And then if you need more resources for the masterclass. Those are always posted in that QR code, which goes to our Google Drive folder. So week 3 will be in there, and we will see you next week for all the things you should not be doing or things that you need to go fix next Wednesday. And hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And we will see you next week. Thanks everybody for jumping on. Take care.